everyone, it's John from What Up, and welcome back to another video, and we're talking CCXP22. Yes, that's Brazilian Comic-Con, and it happened last weekend. There was a Wheel of Time panel, and a couple of cast members from Season 2 did show up, and they talked with presenters about Season 2 and beyond for all three of their characters. We're going to get into all of that today because I know not everyone had the chance to attend or watch the panel yet, so we're going to show you some clips of the panel. We'll discuss some things that are said and what it means for the future of the Wheel of Time show. Now, if you're new to the channel and you don't know what we do here, we cover Wheel of Time show news. So anything and everything there is to know about the Wheel of Time, well, you're going to find it right here on this channel. If you like that sort of thing, make sure you click the subscribe button and the notification bell because we usually put out a couple of videos per week, pretty much focusing just on the Wheel of Time. Now, before I get into the video, I do have to give a slight spoiler because we're going to talk about certain elements of Season 2, which does refer to the first 3 books of the Wheel of Time series. So, spoiler warning, if you have not watched the first season of Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time show, that's episodes 1 through 8 on Prime Video, or have not read the first 3 books of Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series, that's The Eye of the World, The Great Hunt, and The Dragon Reborn, be forewarned, I may ruin minor plot points and character arcs from all of those mediums. Alright, that being said, let's get on to the video. Alright, so you're probably asking yourself at this point, what is CCXP22? Well, it happened last weekend in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and it is one of the biggest cons in the world. Yes, it's absolutely massive. It's got the who's who of anybody in the industry when it comes to anything fantasy, sci-fi, or geek culture. Disney Plus had a large presence there, including a lot of real exclusive Marvel stuff, including Ant-Man Quantumania. I think they debuted a trailer there, amongst other things. A lot of Netflix properties were there, and Prime Video had a big presence too, including The Lord of the Rings and The Wheel of Time. Now, we're focused on The Wheel of Time today because, let's face it, that's what the video is about, and that's what we're here to talk about. Now, I will say something, the booth for The Wheel of Time at this con was gorgeous. I've seen a ton of pictures from fans, seen a ton of the official pictures shared on the Wheel of Time account, and I will tell you that the pictures I'm going to show in this video don't do it justice. It was gorgeous, and I want to say that the marketing people are starting to learn. I've been really tough on the Wheel of Time marketing people the last couple of years, and I sort of feel bad about it, but not really, because they haven't really been doing a great job. If they continue on with things like this, I can't see any problem with it, because this was absolutely fantastic. They did a really good job here. Now we'll talk just a bit about what was there, what the fans could see, and what you can interact with in this booth. But at this con were 3 cast members. We had Donal Finn, who plays Matt Cauthon for Season 2 and beyond of the Wheel of Time. Now, if you're new to the channel or you don't really follow Wheel of Time news that closely and you're just happening upon this video, you probably don't know that Matt Cauthon was recast, and he was, because Barney Harris was Matt Cauthon for episodes 1 through 6 of the first season, and then he left the show between episodes 6 and 7 for reasons that were undisclosed to the public. Now, daily I get asked why this happened, and yes, I am aware of some second and third hand information on why and how Barney left. It's not something I'm going to talk about because I was asked not to, so you can keep asking. I'm not going to do a video on it, and I probably will not disclose the information ever. So there's that. But Donal Finn was recast for Matt Cauthon in Season 2, and as much of a fan favorite as Barney Harris was for Matt, I think Donal Finn is going to be leaps and bounds ahead of him from what I've seen. He is absolutely fantastic, and the clips I've seen of him as Cauthon, I don't know what to say other than absolutely beautiful. We're in for a big treat with him. We had Kate Fleetwood, Kate Fleetwood, who plays Liandrin Sedai, was also there as one of the veteran cast members, so she was the only cast member that was also in Season 1 that in attendance for this con. And we had Ceara Coveney, another newcomer, who plays Elayne Trakand in the second season. Now, this particular con is gorgeous. They had all these picture boxes up, and in these picture boxes, in this mock-up of the White Tower, you could take your photos with the Emerald seat itself, so you could go up near the seat, sit on the seat, have some photos done with that. And you can see here, we had Donal Finn and Ceara Coveney taking pictures in the mock-up of the White Tower. And if you look at some of the detail in the background, they did a fantastic job with this booth. It was absolutely immaculate. Now, there were a ton of pictures online from influencers and people who I believe probably were paid to sit in the seat and in the booth to take pictures, and that's a smart thing. It really got the intricacies of these sets out there to the public, and I was really happy to see it. But they had these photo booths there. You could go up in front of these photo booths and take a photo, and here you see the 3 cast members doing it, and that's the photo there, and you can kind of pretend to be using the One Power, which is really very neat. Now, they did a Q&A at the con, and we're going to show clips of that here in a second, and we're going to talk about it. And they also did a press conference, and we're going to talk about that as well. Now, I don't have the press conference, but I do have a transcription of the press conference from Ben Mulder, who runs the Portuguese Wheel of Time website. And he was kind enough to do some translating in English for me and the rest of the English fans out there. He did talk about that, so we'll talk just a bit about that too.
What is it like to shoot a series like this and to be part of this fantasy world that is so amazing?
Well, the scale of it is incredible, and I think that when you first walk out on some of the sets, like I remember first walking out into the White Tower, and I just couldn't believe it. And the same in the second season. Some of the sets that you'll see in the second season are just phenomenal, beautiful, beautiful. And what's so brilliant about the sets and the design in both seasons is the attention to detail from the designers and from the makers, the artisans who make the shoes, who make the jewelry, who make the sets, who make the wigs. So just the attention to detail from the backstage crew is just it brings a tear to my eye sometimes when I see the amount of work that's put in. It's really beautiful.
It just makes our job very, very, very easy then, because so you rock up and all the hard work is done. You don't have to imagine that you're in a dungeon or that you're in a crazy town like Cairhien or wherever, you know. It's all the work is done for us then. It makes our job very easy when we've got an incredible bunch of people working behind the scenes. So.
All right, so there you have it, right from Donal Finn's mouth himself. We are seeing Cairhien in Season 2 of The Wheel of Time. Now, we kind of already knew that because, well, Rafe Judkins has mentioned it a couple of different times, and there's a ton of circumstantial evidence surrounding that. Watch out for my leak video coming soon. We're going to see the Cairhien Rising Sun, some images of that from set in that video. That'll probably come out the next day or two, so make sure you're watching for that. But this is kind of interesting because we know from Season 1 that they can only do a few major locations because that's within their budget. Part of the reason why Cainlan was cut and a few other spots were cut from the Eye of the World instead of showing them in Season 1. Now, what they went with were pretty smart. So we had Emond's Field, which, of course, they had to have Emond's Field in there because that's where the story starts. We had Breen's Spring. Now, Breen's Spring ended up being sort of a amalgam of every single village that they visited along the road in Four Kings all at the same time. We had Shadar Logoth. That was another major location for the first season. We had the White Tower. Now, the White Tower made total sense because it's a spot we're going to revisit over and over and over again every single season. So to introduce it early and have the set done up for the first season made a lot of sense there. And then after that, we had Faldera. And I guess you could consider Geldin a set, although it really wasn't. It was a location shot for a small portion of one episode. So there's that. And then we had all the nature shots where they're out and about and they weren't built sets. So what this means is that we're most likely getting at least two locations that we're 100% sure of in the second, or three locations rather, 100% sure of in the second season. First one is White Tower, definitely getting the White Tower. I know for a fact that Elayne Trakand gets introduced in the first couple episodes during White Tower scenes. I leaked that, probably a year or more, year and a half ago now, when I leaked Ceara Coveney is playing Elayne Trakand. So we know that the White Tower is going to play a major part in Season 2. We know Cairhien will play a part now. We're definitely seeing Cairhien for sure. We know that Falme will play a part. Reason being is because there's been a ton of behind-the-scenes stuff. There's been a ton of talk about Falme, and we know it's going to feature in the second season. So my thoughts are, because they're going to show Cairhien in the second season, I think they may change the story up just a bit. So we'll visit Cairhien more often. Maybe we'll see that more than Tyr. Maybe we'll see that more than Cainlan. It might be an amalgam of some other cities, and that's what we'll see. Who knows? But we know for sure we're going to get that.
A new face on the cast this season, and you're playing a character that we already know. So how it was for you to get into this character that has already been built, but you're also going to put your own twist to it?
Yeah, when I was starting on the job, I kind of thought maybe I could watch some of Season 1 and kind of have a look at what's kind of been before. But to be honest, I felt as long as there was a consistency within the voice of the character and the energy of the character, I didn't really mind. And there was and then, like, reading the books, I think, was the greatest indication as to his kind of energy and spirit, and I think it didn't really matter then, like, that I felt like that was the overriding characteristic, no matter who was going to, you know, play Matt. I think there's something kind of quintessentially youthful and humorous, and, you know, there's a quote from the books of Robert Jordan, I think it's towards the end, of like, it's the story of a hero who with every breath said that he wasn't a hero, you know. And I think you find quotes like that from the book, and you kind of get a great summation of that it's kind of an everyman story, and it's nuggets like that that kind of help you feed a performance. And yeah, that's I think the key things that helped me kind of step into the role. It was really picking up the energy and the spirit, the kind of the private life of the character through the books. Yeah.
So there we have it. We know that Donal Finn is not going to base his new Matt off of the old Matt. He's going to basically take the character and make what his own rendition of Matt would be. And I think that's why I'm so excited about it, because yes, Barney Harris did a great job, but Donal Finn is, in my opinion, and I'm probably going to get a little bit of hate in the comments about this, but leaps and bounds ahead of Barney Harris as far as acting goes. And I think he embodies the character of Matt even better than Barney ever did. So I can't wait to see his own spin, as he puts it, on the character. And I like the fact that he didn't watch the show and take elements from the show and use that in his character. Rather, he read the books and he took elements from the books themselves and what he thought that Matt's character should be from the books, rather than watching another actor's performance. Really very cool. Now, Ceara Coveney also got asked a little bit about channeling, and I'll show that here now. But this particular panel was well over 20 minutes long. I'm not going to show the whole thing. This will be the last clip I show on it. But really very neat on her take on what channeling involves and their movement coach and how they can make it their own.
Ceara, of course, you are playing Elayne Trakand. You're also a new face in the second season. Did you start practicing your channeling already before shooting? How was that? I mean, is it hard? Is it in the fingers? Is it in the arms?
It's such a process, and we've got an amazing movement director called Scarlett that we work with, and we break down from the books, and you kind of look at where Elayne ends up and who she becomes and what kind of channeler she is. And you go back, and it's like, how do we show the beginnings of this? How even from the first time that we meet her, and she's learning how to harness the one power and how she channels, and you sprinkle these little kind of nuggets of what kind of channeler she becomes. And that's so amazing to work with Scarlett and kind of be like, oh, how is she going to channel? Because everyone channels differently and everyone harnesses the one power in a different way. So to kind of make your own unique spin on your channeling was so fun, the creativity. And also it's like, okay, if I could do magic, how would I do it? And like, what an amazing thing to figure out. Yeah, it's been amazing.
All right, so there was a press conference as well as two clips that were shown. Now, the press conference had a few different highlights that were slightly different than them being on stage. The first one was Liandrin basically said that all the books got delivered to her all at once in a big package after she landed the role and she started reading them. Ceara Coveney mentioned the fact that she uses the books as sort of an encyclopedia to fill in the gaps when the writers, when they give her the scripts, which I think is great because as far as the scripts go, I've read some scripts from season 1. You don't really get a sense for how the characters should be on screen. You just get their lines and what they're doing. So if she's reading the books to fill in the gaps in between, I think we definitely will get a very good Elayne. And that Donal Finn has been very impressed with the fandom so far and his interactions with them. And for those of you out there in Twitter time and other aspects of the fandom, I know a lot of you have been very fortunate to see him actually act on stage and see him in person, and he's had nothing but great things to say about the fandom as a whole, which is really, very good. Now, just an aside before we get into the other thing that happened at the convention, I do want to mention that our fandom, the Wheel of Time fandom, has been, by and large, absolutely fantastic, and that has been mentioned to me by some of the cast and crew a few different times. Now, most fandoms have some small toxic element attached to them. I know the Star Wars and Lord of the Rings fandoms have some very angry people, and the Wheel of Time fandom does too. I mean, every fandom does, but ours seems to be much smaller, and the fandom as a whole seems to be much more inclusive and supportive and happy than other fandoms. And I just want to thank all of you out there for that. If you love the Wheel of Time, generally, you just like any aspect of the Wheel of Time, and you like other people who like the Wheel of Time too, which I'm really happy with. That's why I like doing this, is because you folks are so absolutely amazing. Now, the thing that happened at the con that I do want to mention, I want to end on this, is they showed 2 separate clips. Now, I'll read the official descriptions here as given by Ben Mulder, but I don't have them. I've seen snippets of them from people who sent them to me, but there's about 2,000 people in attendance, according to Ben, and he didn't record them, but he saw some people had. So I assume at some point or another they'll leak on social media, or they'll be floating around, maybe, depending on how big the Wheel of Time fans are that took the videos, but they're not for release with the general public. Essentially, usually cons have some sort of exclusivity contract with these clips, so we're probably not going to see them for some time yet, if at all. But they seem to be the same clips that we've heard about distributed at other cons, which is also probably pretty par for the course. So here are the official descriptions of the 2 clips. The first clip is in a first short scene. Egwene and another novice, Elayne, talk in one of the rooms in the White Tower, home of the Aes Sedai. The 2 talk about trivia, and Elayne reveals that Egwene will be her partner to master the One Power, which that completely lines up with some of the information I got when Elayne was first cast, that we would see her at first in the tower with scenes with Egwene, and they're probably going to be roommates as novices, which I think will be absolutely really cool. Now, the second clip is Liandrin and Mat. Liandrin enters Mat's cell to bring him 2 scones. That's pretty specific, 2 scones. The prisoner asks if the food is poisoned, and she says she would have more creative ways to kill him if she wanted to. He then asks why he is trapped, and she says that he is being watched after being controlled by the power of an evil dagger. She leaves the cell, he waits for her to leave the floor, and goes back to digging a block of stone hidden behind a closet with the intention of escaping the White Tower. Now, that's pretty neat, and that's pretty on par for what Mat would probably do. A little bit different than the books, of course, a little bit different than what happened. And it's going to have to be, because a lot of the events surrounding Mat in the White Tower and in Tar Valon happened a little bit later than they're going to in the show. So they're going to have to move some things around, move some characters around to kind of line things up and shorten it. But I can't wait to see Donal Finn as Mat. I think he's going to be absolutely fantastic with that. Now, like I said earlier in the video, keep an eye out for a couple of videos I'm having coming up in the next few days. The first one is about some leaks, some set photos with the Cairhien Rising Sun, and set photos of a certain small Italian town where they did some filming for Season 2, likely with Moiraine and Lan. I'm pretty excited about that one. That'll come out in the next couple of days. And I have another video about a piece of news just dropped by Watt Series yesterday, and it's a doozy, and I have some very extreme thoughts on it, I guess. I'm usually pretty positive, but this one I'm not so positive. So we'll talk about that. But I want to thank you all so very much for sticking with me here to the very end. And here's to many more.